The Paris Olympics are full of incredible stories, but the rise of South Sudan's basketball team has got to be one of the most inspiring. South Sudan is the youngest country in the entire world and in just a few years created an Olympic-caliber basketball team. And that's despite not having a single indoor basketball gym in the entire country. They literally almost beat Team USA in an exhibition game and got their first Olympic win ever. But one of the craziest parts about this whole story is that one person is the reason for all of this. And that one person is 15-year NBA veteran Luol Deng, who created the entire program from basically nothing. He's been paying for the team's gyms, hotels, plane tickets, and just about every expense that goes into funding a world-class basketball team. The success they've recently had wouldn't have ever been possible without the help of Luol. South Sudan has been dealing with devastating wars for a very long time, which has caused irreversible damage to the people and the country itself. The wars have caused thousands of people to flee the area to surrounding countries just to keep their families safe. And that has left those families without homes, food, or really anything you need to survive. And even if you are able to find some type of stable life, the opportunities in South Sudan are extremely limited. This is why what Luol Deng and his group of people have done is absolutely incredible. Luol's been doing stuff to help out his country for years, even during his playing days. But once his career started to come to an end, there was only one thing he wanted to do. He had multiple different coaching and even front office job offers once he was done playing, but none of that really mattered to him. This all came to fruition after he built an outdoor basketball court at a refugee camp in Kenya. The camp was mostly full of people who fled from South Sudan, and once it was completed, he said it was one of the coolest things he's ever done. But not too long after, Luol realized, what's the point of the court if the people don't really know how to play the game? Basketball isn't something that people pick up and get the hang of right away. And Luol knew that. He said that the new courts must come with coaching and programs to help them. So that's exactly what he did. He developed programs for the youth while also having a lot bigger plans as well. He wanted to build a program that could one day compete in the Olympics. And little did he know that day was coming a lot sooner than even he expected. South Sudan was technically already playing within FIBA, but in late 2020 when Luol took over, things began to change quickly. But he wasn't able to do all of this by himself. On top of having a whole staff helping him, Luol also hired his former high school teammate and friend Royal Ivy to be the head coach of the program. Then from there, they put together the best roster they possibly could. A few players like Wenyen Gabriel, JT Thor, and Carlik Jones have played in the NBA before, but almost all of them play in the EuroLeague or the NBL. They don't have really any big names, but the team that they put together was a lot better than everyone expected. These guys are playing for a lot more than just wins. They have an entire country watching them try to create their own path and put themselves on the map. The passion of this team goes way beyond basketball. They're literally pioneers of South Sudan. Multiple players on the team were from those exact refugee camps that they're trying to support. The coaches and players know what these kids and families are going through, and that's really who they're playing for. So after years of getting better and better, they were eventually able to compete in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. But they didn't just compete, they absolutely dominated. In the first round, they went 6-0 and beat the African champions Tunisia twice. They continued to play really well for the remaining rounds, and for the first time in the country's history, they qualified for the official World Cup. And in their 5 games, they finished with a record of 3 wins and 2 losses, which placed them 17th out of the 32 teams that competed, which was good enough to qualify them for the Paris Olympics. They even had some pretty big wins over China, the Philippines, and Angola. The only games that they lost were against 12th place Puerto Rico, who they lost to in overtime, and Serbia, who went on to win the silver medal. Multiple different players for South Sudan showed out, and the team averaged 91.6 points a game, which is crazy. But it wasn't until their scrimmage against Team USA where they would truly be put on the map. South Sudan played so good that even USA fans were rooting for them, and once the story of them started to come out, more and more people were becoming fans. It got to the point where South Sudan's social medias were gaining thousands of likes and followers. You could literally see the fight that they play with. No matter who they were going up against or how many points they were down by, they were never bothered. And that alone earned the respect of everybody watching. They weren't just happy to be there, they really wanted to win. But the story only gets better from here. In their very first Olympic pool game, they were facing Puerto Rico, who beat them in overtime last year during the World Cup. So this time, they had a chance to avenge themselves, and that's exactly what they did. They beat Puerto Rico by 11 and got their first Olympic basketball win, which is absolutely crazy knowing what the program looked like just a few years ago. South Sudan would lose their next 2 pool games, but they went up against some of the best teams in the entire Olympics. First, they had to play Team USA, who has one of their best rosters ever, and then they had to play Serbia, who placed second in last year's World Cup without the 3-time MVP Nikola Jokic. They were just outmatched, but that didn't stop them from putting up a fight in both games from start to finish. No matter what the score was, they were never out of the game. If you even let up for a couple possessions, then South Sudan would make you pay. The way they play basketball is a clear representation of what their team is all about. Luol Deng's whole goal was to promote change in South Sudan and create opportunities that weren't there before. Basketball isn't just a way to make lots of money, it's an outlet that can make you forget about everything that's going on around you and teach you so many different life lessons along the way. Hopefully this is just the beginning of what's to come from this situation. This type of inspiration can bleed into the rest of South Sudan's culture and completely change it for the better. Once they get more resources, the generations to come will greatly benefit from everyone that made a difference before them. They were able to create an Olympic team with little to no resources and accomplish something so big while having every excuse in the book not to. You just have to remember that talent is everywhere, however, opportunity is not. And that's exactly what the people in South Sudan are trying to change, and because of that, they will forever have my respect.